Hello and welcome to Adventures in Venueland, an EVMC podcast. Join us for this all-access pass backstage and behind the scenes with some of the brightest minds that cross the scope of the live event industry. I'm Dave Rettelberger.
And I'm Paul Hooper. We'll introduce you to incredible guests who journey with us as we dive deep into the world of venues, tours, festivals, and everything in between. Grab your laminate and meet us in Venueland.
For today's adventure, we're joined by Senior Vice President, Premium Business and Events at Crypto.com Arena and AEG, and 2024 Women in Sports and Events Woman of the Year, Michele Kajiwara. Michele, thanks for making the time for us today.
You got it. Happy to be here.
So that's a mouthful, right? SVP, Premium Business Events, AEG, lots of big words there. What does all that mean? What are you doing in this crazy world we live in?
Well, I'm doing a lot in the crazy world, but when I'm in the actual venue, what I'm doing is running our premium business and events department, meaning we've got about 2,500 premier seats. We have 178 private suites. We've got 27 tables and lounges. We have hospitality spaces. I've got a team of about 50 people that service, sell, market, analyze, promote events, do all the things to maintain our business, which is unique in the industry because we don't roll into any specific team. We support the Kings, we support the Lakers, the Sparks, the promoters, the private events that come through like the Grammys. And so we are a little bit agnostic in that we are on our own little island reporting into AEG, the parent company that owns the venue, that owns the Kings. But we are run semi-independently and do a lot within our own business unit, whereas a lot of other premium folks have a full team that that help support all of their endeavors. And so in that way, we feel very unique and certainly privileged in that we get to work with a lot of the very best teams and partners in the business. So that's a mouthful, but it is, yeah, but it's fun because we get to straddle this, premium side, the events side, the venue side, global partnerships, which we into as well, and all of the assets that AEG has and this global footprint of access that we try to cross-pollinate with our members and our staff. And so in that way, it is a very robust position to be in, and we're incredibly blessed to be able to do what we do.
So you fully focus on the concerts, special events side of things, if I'm correct.
It's literally everything that's in our building. Concerts are a piece of it. The Lakers, the Kings, the Sparks, all
so you
part
do.
of it.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, our members get access to everything. Unless it's a private event, in which case we do still provide access. It might be an additional cost. We've got some different layers of what becomes available, but for the most part, we have access to everything. And so we get to play this integral role in delivering world-class hospitality and events to our members.
For a lot of buildings, their team, their NBA or their NHL team has their own sales, a premium person, and then they kind of dabble in special events, right? It's not a focus, it's not a priority, it's kind of an add-on. So maybe they don't even really have anybody who really focuses on that. Talk to me about the distribution of, the balance and kind of how you figured that out there at Crypto.com.
I don't know if I have it figured out, but I'll tell you how we try to manage it. So we get to work with Hallie, who books all of our events, with Akira, who gets to market a lot of our events. And we work with all these great building operators that help bring these to light. For example, we just announced Sabrina Carpenter. She's going to do multiple shows later this year. And what that does is really help boost the value that's provided to all of our members. And so while we're not intimately involved in producing the event, the fact that events get to come to this venue and be a part of that added benefit to our members really helps boost sales, retention, and value. When you look at even your abatements and the contractual language that we include for everybody, there's a certain number of events specifically for suite holders that we want to deliver annually. For premier seat holders, it is a option to buy additionally on top of the sports
Mm,
package that they get. So a little bit of a different offer, but
yeah.
still the value of the events that we get to bring amplifies everything that we do. And then you look at something like the Grammys, which is something that is private, so not a guarantee for everybody to get access to, but we do sell Grammys suites. We
Oh,
get back
cool. Yeah.
whatever Neris doesn't take. And so we became this kind of private arm of being able to sell that inventory, which is so special. That show is unbelievable. And when you think about concerts and events, that is the granddaddy of them all. It's like getting the best of every single concert because you're not getting the entire album and maybe one song that you've never heard of and some
Right.
creative riff that the artist might go down. You're like, just play the hits. The
Yeah.
Grammys is all the hits and it's masterfully produced. It is an unbelievable night that showcases the best of the business. And so for me, that's really the annual education of, oh, that's who sings that.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's a full education for me and an immersive night of understanding who all of these artists are and watching them come together is pretty spectacular. And we've been really fortunate to have the majority of the Grammys in our building.
You mentioned how with Sabrina Carpenter, you've got multiple shows. And I know you all just fairly recently set a record, if I'm not mistaken, with Tyler, the Creator, most longest hip hop residency or something at Crypto. So I feel like that is, certainly we're seeing artists do multiple nights at different places, but I mean, I feel like LA, it's constant, right? There's so many people there. You all can sell 3 or 4 shows for any of these big acts. How does that kind of affect what you're doing? It probably does give all this value to those premium people because now they all of a sudden, especially for a hot artist like Sabrina Carpenter, they now have tickets to multiple shows and all this stuff like that. But is it something that you found kind of unique when you have all these multiple shows like that people really are, excited and gravitate to that? Like, I can't imagine them finding out, oh my gosh, we've got whatever, I don't know how many shows you did of Tyler, the Creator, but a lot, right? So that's got to be really interesting.
Yes, it is really cool to see a singular artist be able to pack the house for multiple nights and deliver that experience to more people. I know some artists are doing more stadium shows where you just do one night and you've got
Right.
100,000 people that you're able to, enjoy the show. But in being able to do multiple nights, I think for us, that's kind of the way that we can hit that many audiences as well. And so when we look at the way that live events are able to deliver an experience for our members beyond what the sports product can do is, you're a Laker fan, you're a Kings fan or a Sparks fan, but what the diversity of our shows get to do is like a Tyler Creator gets to hit a particular audience. Sabrina Carpenter gets to hit another audience.
Right.
Disney on Ice gets to accommodate, and I get more CEOs in the building because they want their kids to have a great time. And so then you get these family shows and you get, the wrestling show. So there's something for everybody. And that's the beauty of what our venue is able to do is we're not singular to any one fan. And what you get to do across all of these different artists and performers and athletes is give everybody something.
Yeah.
And I think that really sets us apart. And when you talk about the landscape in LA being so overpopulated, not just from a consumer standpoint, but from a venue standpoint, you really get to have this explosion of talent coming through here at any given night. And I was here last night and watched Heart perform, right?
Yeah,
I was
yeah,
like,
yeah, yeah.
wow, where have these guys been? Right. Like, but They were amazing. And you pop out for a second and get to see these live experiences after working a full day in the office and then getting sort of a throwback. And then you get somebody like Sabrina Carpenter, who I didn't even know was the one that sang Espresso. I was like, oh my gosh,
Yeah.
she's selling out multiple nights. Yes, she is, because we just had her in the
Yeah.
venue and she's coming back. So it is pretty awesome when you think about the reach that we have and then the impact that we have. And a story that I really enjoy coming back to help me stay so present and aware of what the impact is that we have on people is during COVID. I sat in on a Zoom call for a member that had unfortunately passed away. And we were having the memorial service, and I was on page 15. Nobody knew that I was even
Right.
back there, but it was family and friends, and I really wanted to at least participate by listening in on sort of this person's life and honoring all the things that they had done. And I can't tell you how many people got on that Zoom call, not knowing I was on it, obviously, but
Sure.
talking about the indelible mark this human being had on their life because he was an extension to this venue and gave them an opportunity to see a Laker game, a Kings game, a concert. And when you hear story after story from a singular person that had one contract with us and the ripple effect that they have on so many lives to bring them a memory that they'll never forget or that changed their life or gave them a perspective or a moment to experience something here, that really reinforces the value of what we can do
Yeah.
as a premium department, as an industry, as a venue, and as people, right?
Yeah.
Person to person. That is an incredible gift that we get to share with so many people. And I think that is the lifeline that I've held on to here for going on 22, 23 years. That makes a huge difference for people. And that's what really buoys my enthusiasm every single day to really drive what I love and show up for
It's
whoever I
beautiful.
can.
I love that.
It's no secret how much live events mean to people, and we see it all the time when we see them down on the floor and at concerts and stuff. But it is really interesting to think about it from that perspective of someone who has, a suite or whatever it is, and often they are getting these tickets and they're able to give that gift to all these people, right? Like often people are buying tickets for themselves and to create those experiences for others that clearly are very impactful. That's really amazing.
Because if you don't invite them, they might not ever know. They might
Right.
not ever come,
Right.
right? You always have the hand raisers that, oh my God, can you get me access to this? Can you get me access to that? And they know exactly what they want and they're very dialed in. But I think there's this whole other audience of guests that don't know what they don't know. And
Right.
if they
Yeah.
haven't experienced it, they're not aware of what they're missing out on. And, by that invitation alone, you can really change the trajectory of how they view live events. And beyond what we do on a booked calendar, we do a lot of that we deliver for the entire building. We have an events team, both in premium and through global partnerships, that create their own events for our members, road trips, events on the floor of the building where they're shooting pucks, they're taking shots, they're, underneath the LEDs and the ribbon boards, and they are experiencing something like a player or a
Oh yeah.
performer. And that's really special. So we're constantly trying to deliver something to people that evoke an emotion and a memory and a connection back to us that cannot be replicated in any other way or any other format. And I know technology is incredible, but when you're not hitting those five senses, it's different. You got
Hmm.
to smell the popcorn. You've got to get the
Right.
beer spilled on you. You have to say hi to the guy that's been, your guest services person forever. It's
Yeah.
totally different when you walk into this venue, and we get to do it every night. We're in the office. It's like kind of the back of house, right? But you go through two doors And now you're in the mix with 20,000 people, and that infusion of energy and adrenaline is like nothing else that you can experience. And we become just as important as the performers and the athletes in
Yeah.
that we're on stage now. And we are fully engaged with all of our clients and all of our vendors and everybody in the arena to create a big moment.
So you talk a little bit about, the landscape of Los Angeles, and so I'm curious, are you friendly with the other venues in town? Are you blood rivals? And then what do
You
you what
guys
do you
meet in
kind
the
of
street with writers
Anchorman?
and yeah,
yeah
exactly like
do
Anchorman.
you need to set
People
yourself
coming down
apart from
aisles.
them, or is it just your events that do that? Is it the service that does it? Just kind of walk us through your challenges there.
I don't think I have bad blood with anybody. At least I'd like to believe that. And honestly, I try to be as welcoming as I can be to anybody that's new to LA, that's new to sports. I don't look at it as competition that's out for us because I feel like if you do your job really well and if you continue to deliver a good product and have great service, they will come. I'm never going to sell somebody something in my venue that only wants to see baseball games. It's not going to
Right,
happen.
right.
Find the people that are aligned with what it is that you have to deliver, and then you're going to provide something that they want, that they're going to value. Sure, there's some people that can be converted. Absolutely. But we are in a market, obviously, where there's enough to go around.
Hmm.
So I don't try to position it as us against all of them. I try to look at this landscape in LA as look at how fortunate we are to be in such a massive market that it can accommodate all of these venues, all of these people, all of this diversity of thought and attention to where you want to spend your money. And I never want to force somebody to invest in something that isn't aligned with what they think is valuable. Or I'm going to try to win you over and show you that there is value. And I do believe that we are one of those venues where we have that diversity. We provide family shows, all the different concerts that I named. We have hockey, we have basketball, we have women's basketball, we have such a plethora of offerings that even if you are very singular about what you enjoy, the offer that we have is different because you're going to be able to give it to so many other people
Yeah,
that
yeah,
enjoy something here. So it's not always about the end user, it's also about how you're going to be able to optimize these tickets and give them out to. And if you're thinking about it from the perspective that I'm talking about, you're thinking about it in a way that's how can I bring other people here, give them something that they like, and be a little bit more diverse in offering something that nobody else has.
yeah.
And then how do you provide a level of service on top of that that make people want to come back and make people feel like they've been seen and heard and understood in a way with some of the other events that we do, right? And some of the other touch points that we can provide where you're not going to get that if you don't have a relationship with the building. And I feel like we have those people and those indelible moments that keep people coming back and wanting to come back, right?
Yeah.
Because again, you can't force somebody to open their wallet. We try to be compelling, but at the end of the day, we want to give them enough good reason to stay with us.
Are you in a situation where it's kind of expected for all that space to sell because it's LA, so this all should be clean for the majority of events?
Yeah. At the end of the day, I need to generate revenue. At the end of the day,
Yeah.
What?
I love generating revenue. At the end of the day, there's nothing more fulfilling than making sure that we're hitting our goals, we're
Sure.
exceeding our goals, we're doing everything that we possibly can. Now, is it sometimes hard? Yeah. There's been lockouts, there's been pandemics. We had a team leave, right? The Clippers just moved to
Yeah.
Intuit Dome. And so you hit sort of these speed bumps that are challenging, but in spite of that, you've got to figure out a way to work it out, to find a pathway forward and to continue providing that value and those relationships where people will trust that this might be temporary and it will get better. And when you start to get through that, and I think especially as a sports fan, you understand that there's going to be highs and lows. If you follow any sports team, you know they're not winning championships every year. You could
Right.
have great runs, but inevitably there's going to be a lull. And I think that's the beauty of being a fan is this sort of roller coaster of emotions, these highs and lows that you still get through it together. You still get on with it. And you know that that's just part of the journey. And we've now come through some challenges, but then Luka Doncic happens
I
and
was
you
gonna
go,
say, and then you get a lovely golden egg hand delivered to you from
no,
Dallas.
where did that come from? But you're hanging on for dear life,
Yeah, yeah.
praying that there's going to be those moments. And then those moments happen. And then all of a sudden the beer tastes better.
Right.
All of a sudden,
Yeah, I always say our guest survey reviews are always better when the teams are winning.
Oh yeah.
right? It's not rocket science.
Yeah.
And conversely, when there's struggles, it's easy to pile on. But the resilience that we've had in this market, in sort of being one of the front runners, certainly in the downtown area, and regentrifying everything around us, and building these incredible footprints where there's restaurants, there's venues across the street, there's infrastructure built around this anchor building. It's really provided this great footprint that you see all over. And it is really fun to watch the landscape explode. And look, I think there's value in having competition because you have to be on your toes. You have to look around. You have to be aware. And I think if you use it positively, it can be a good force. And that's the way I like to position ourselves within this landscape that is certainly crowded.
So you didn't directly answer the street fights, but we're just gonna assume that there aren't any. So
Yeah, there's no street fighting. I
let's
really,
think of it more as dance battles. How about
but also you look around and
that?
it is important that we maintain relationships with
Oh
everybody
yeah,
in this industry
certainly.
because you never know where somebody's going to resurface. You never know.
Oh,
And
totally.
there's
Yeah, that's a
certainly
great point.
been this interchanging of the
Hmm.
guards through all of the properties in LA. And okay,
Yeah. And to your point, there's enough to go around, right? Like you
yeah,
can have crypto have a sold out show and simultaneously have a full, stadium for the Dodgers and have SoFi packed and have everywhere packed. They can all do it because there is a market and LA is so big. And it's, I think, across all those venues, like there's this culture of a love of live events and going out and experiencing music or sports. And so I think, I think it helps in that you're really everyone's eating, right? Everyone gets a little cut, a slice of the pie. I'm going to keep thinking of analogies.
but also just be cool. Just be cool.
Yeah. Yeah. Just be
Yeah.
cool.
We
Yeah.
share the same clients.
Yeah. Yeah.
Everybody talks.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
never
Yeah.
know where somebody's going to resurface. And I just believe that life's too short to be engaging in street fights.
Well, Michelle, speaking of life being short, let's take you back to a very recent time, the early '90s.
Okay.
You're going to, Cal State Long Beach. Did you have an idea of what you wanted to do? Did you know you wanted to get into the live event business?
Oh God, no. I had no idea what I was doing. I went to Cal State Long Beach because my high school advisor said it's a great segue to get some of your GEs done and figure out what you might want to get a little bit more focused on. And so I did that. And, geez, I was taking ceramics classes and I was doing all of my general ed courses, and I still had no idea what I wanted to do, but I did know that I wanted to transfer to USC, which I did, and I did a study abroad, and I got really dialed into communication. I felt like that was a really great catch-all for being able to communicate and negotiate and articulate what it is you want, tell a story, and ultimately elicit some kind of behavior by the power of our words and what we're able to inspire people to do or not do. And so got into communication, which was great, graduated and still had no idea what I wanted to do. So I took a year off, in air quotes, where I lived in Lake Tahoe with some buddies of mine and waitressed. I paid
Yeah.
for my lifestyle. I waitress and I worked at then Squaw Valley and skied all day, waitressed at night. Did that for about 6 months, had an epic ski season, and then I moved with another friend to Hawaii and waitressed again and played in the water, played tennis, went on hikes, did all of that. I'm originally from Hawaii. I was born there, and so I had family and over there and wanted to spend some time actually living there as a grown up, which I never got to do. So we did that for a year, and I came back to LA, still sort of searching, but landed in entertainment and worked for New Regency Productions, which is where I
Mm.
think a lot of people that went to USC sort of gravitated to entertainment. So that was kind of an easy segue.
Yeah.
And I worked for a producer there. I learned a ton. I made less than $20,000. I worked more hours in a day than I can keep track. And it taught me a tremendous amount about my threshold and bandwidth to
Mm.
figure out, take on, work hard, be innovative and creative, and have a tremendous amount of hustle because I had no idea what I was doing, but I had to figure a lot out. And in doing that job, I really believe that I built this template for what my future was to be. And that really gave me the agency to go after big jobs and work long hours. And a lot of that centered on entertainment. So that was sort of the first step. I did that for a year. I burnt out really hard, but I stuck it out. I knew I had to commit to at least a year, and then I convinced a friend to move to New York. But in between that, we had done a little bit more travel, and I between every job, I take these huge sabbaticals, and
Yeah, I love this bouncing around of, Lake Tahoe and Hawaii and New York. It's like it's a kind of a fun where you're like, let's try this on. Let's see what's going on. And at the very least, you probably have a an understanding that like, I can waitress and live here. Like I can make it work no matter what. So like let's try it out and see what comes from it.
that being self-reliant piece
Yeah,
gave me the autonomy to be able to do that.
sure.
And there were a lot of times, like we went to Australia, Indonesia, and Fiji in this one gap, and then came back. And that's actually, I started entertainment after that, and then moved to New York and did I think, a month-long road trip from LA to the East Coast, and did a lot of stops and saw a lot of America, which was cool. And ended up in New York and lived there for 4 years, working for Chelsea Pierce, which was amazing. That's where I got into sales and started really understanding the value of especially being a woman and especially being in New York, where it was really aggressive and
Sure. Yeah.
really in your face, and definitely not like LA, but learning how to sell in that environment helped me tremendously be able to come back to Los Angeles. And again, with the communication, with everything else, be resourceful, be able to negotiate, be able to hold your own in a room, be able to sell something and tell a story around the value of it, and be compelling in a way that was aggressive, but not overly so that you lose your audience. And that I was able to control my revenue streams, my personal revenue streams
Yeah.
by the effort and energy that I put into being a great salesperson. That forever has translated for me into success and will forever be something that I know I can do, and I can survive anywhere, knowing that if you can sell somebody something, an idea, and we're constantly doing it. We're
Yeah.
constantly
Right.
selling ourselves. And so that lesson in New York was invaluable, and being able to bring that cachet sort of back to Los Angeles really set me up for success. And before I came back to LA, I put all my stuff in storage and I took another year off and I did some traveling around, did about 2.5 months backpacking, mostly by myself. I had some friends and family come in and out, but I went through Southeast Asia for a while and then I came back to New York, started temping. I worked for LVMH, which was really cool. And then I put my stuff back in storage again when I had enough of a nest egg again. And I went to South America and did another 2.5 months sort of backpacking around there. And 9/11 happened while I was traveling. And that gave me the okay moment of, are we going to double down in New York? You can start
Right.
over again or come back to LA. And that's when I decided to come back to Los Angeles and started pursuing a career, not knowing it was going to be a career. I just looked for my next job. And that's when I landed here at Staples Center
Mhm.
in 2003. And I've been here ever since.
Wow.
Yeah, what was the first position you had? Because it's been a 20 plus year run at AEG. So that first position, you were hired to do what? Premium seating services?
I was, yes, I got hired in service. And again, coming out of New York, I was all gangbusters on like, I'm a seller, I'm a killer, I got to get in there, give me something to sell. And they're like, well, we don't have any sales positions open. And so I was like, well, what do you have? And what was available to me at the time was a service coordinator, not even a service manager role. And I was like, whoa, that is a major step back. That's a monetary concession, and I don't know. All right, I'll do it. So I took the job and just trusted, without knowing what was ahead of me, that I was going to figure it out.
Yeah.
And now, in hindsight, to look back, is the best decision that I ever did, because even before I started the job, I got a call that a service manager position opened up. So I was promoted before I even started. They knew I wanted to be in service or in sales. They knew I wanted to get in there and make the best of it, and that I could be an asset in service as a seller. And so I got in and I just haven't looked back. And I still have clients from servicing them 22 years ago that are friends and allies and
That's awesome.
mentors. And I still get to see them and have these incredible relationships all these years later. And so as soon as a sales job opened up, I moved over to sales. And as soon as things continued to open up and I continued to put my hand up and I continued to work really hard and try to prove myself in the company, I just kept moving up, moving over, moving around, not always up, sometimes lateral, sometimes back, but I'm still here. And it's been an incredible run, but not anything that I set out to have a 22-year career in. It just was me putting my head down. And every time I looked up, it's like, oh, okay, there's something else. I feel like I'm ready for that. I think I want to do
Yeah.
more, and just keep proving, keep working. And the way that this has unfolded for me is beyond my wildest dreams, honestly.
I think it's very admirable how you obviously have this agency and have this awareness and it, even the gaps between the jobs on taking these trips, I think is really interesting. And then I know I'll shout out Women Blazers, the podcast, because we love them and
We love
but
Deanna. We
love
love what she
Deanna.
did. Yes.
But I listened to your episode on there, and you talked, or you have two episodes, excuse me, but you're on the finale, episode 100. But you talked about taking a sabbatical while you're in your current role, and I think it's really interesting that you could you talk to us about that? You know, to understand that awareness and when you might need a break and what value you get out of that, and are you going into it expecting something, or are you just like, I need to kind of step back and just recenter myself? You know, what's your kind of approach on that?
So, unbeknownst to me, I had sort of already set this pattern up of taking a sabbatical or taking some time off in between all of my jobs. And it does recenter me. It does get me back to a place of tremendous appreciation for life and for the fact that I get to do really incredible things, but that also there is this world out there and there are all these cultures and people and perspectives that I need to dial back into that maybe my job or my environment hasn't allowed me to do, and not in a negative way because I'm constantly meeting interesting and amazing people.
Sure. Yeah.
But when you go and become a citizen of the world, it is wholly different than being somebody that's comfortable in the space that you occupy and that you operate in on a daily basis. And that is what travel and that is what time off has done, because not only is that exposure to other people so important, what I find now as I'm getting older is connecting back to ourselves is actually the most important thing. And I've done so much travel alone, right? With just me and my backpack and an open road and no return flight, that you really can appreciate being self-reliant, making good decisions, understanding your own journey and checking in with yourself on what you're doing and do you still like doing it and where do you want to continue to go. And so this last break that I took wasn't so much me mapping my life and being intentional about wanting to have that time. It came at a time where I wasn't paying attention to myself. I wasn't taking care of myself. I had gone through, COVID, which was a really heavy lift. There was a lot of tumultuous decisions and emotions and things that came with that pandemic that maybe I didn't fully unpack. I went through a divorce at the time, which was incredibly heartbreaking and difficult. I also started going through menopause, which for a lot of women is just will knock you on your ass and you don't know what's happening, but hormonally there's a lot of changes and it's just radical what your body goes through. And so there was this compounding of really big things that were happening in my life to where my health was really deteriorating and I had to do something before something more catastrophic happened.
Sure.
And battling through was the only thing I knew. But at
Sure. Yeah.
some point, I just didn't have any fight left. And so that was the ultimate surrender at that time of you've got to do this now or your body's going to start making decisions without you. And
Right. Right.
so that was the best thing. And after 20 years being in the company, I don't think everybody needs a huge break. It's a matter of taking micro breaks. It's a matter of tuning in and checking in just on a weekend and taking time off for yourself if that's what you need. And a lot of people don't need it.
Yeah, good
Right.
for them, right?
Some people maybe that's not what you need. That wasn't my journey, though. It is something that I discovered I needed
Yeah.
against my better judgment. I thought I'm good, just carry on. You can power through. But I did it, and it was the best thing I could have done. And leadership here was tremendously sympathetic and understanding. But I say this because I built the equity. You don't get to
Sure.
ask for that if you haven't put in the work. And after
Yes.
Right.
20 years, and I do realize now that I did that, there's companies that encourage their employees after certain milestones to take an extended amount of time off. And I think that's wonderful. And,
Yeah.
you know, But if your company doesn't do it, I think it's on everybody to understand what their own thresholds are, and to have real conversations with the people that you work with to be able to come back better and stronger, and continue to do really good work. And so I am eternally grateful that that was something that that my company understood. And I've never taken a break like that. I don't have children. I don't, there hasn't been a reason for me to take time off. And I'm not saying having kids is taking time off by any stretch.
Right.
I've just never been away
Yeah.
for that long.
Yeah. Talk to me a little bit about this concept of work-life harmony versus work-life balance.
Balance has always been sort of a trigger for me because I don't believe that it ever is equally measured.
Right.
You don't
It's
work
never
an
50
8-hour
50.
day,
Yeah.
sleep for 8 hours, and then have 8 hours of personal. Like, you just don't get
Right.
that in any given day. And if you do, good for you. I have found that working in this industry, there's going to be stretches where you've got to go really hard, and then there's going to be a stretch where you can take a little time to catch up, right? But it's never balanced. It's never equal parts, and it's if you think that that is what balance means, you're going to be grossly disappointed, especially when you work in this kind of live event space, right? You never know what's going to happen, and you've got to be able to rise to the occasion. And then, like I said before, you've got to figure out how to fill your cup back up.
Hmm.
If that takes a half day on a Saturday to just go to a sound bath, or take a walk, or be with your kids, or walk your dogs, whatever it is, you've got to be able to figure that out. And so I think this harmony also is so important, or this blend. There's a lot of different ways of saying work life. But when it is more of a confluence of things that you enjoy doing, there is less separation between, all right, I'm going to stop working and I'm going to start enjoying life. When I am here at work, I am enjoying myself most of the time. When I
Yeah.
am home, I am enjoying myself most of the time. And I get to do work while I'm at home now. We have laptops. I was just talking to a colleague of mine last night. I stayed late. I was just kind of in a flow state, and I was able to get a lot done. Back in the day, you didn't have the luxury of taking your cell phone home and sitting down and watching TV and working on your phone, or doing calls, or doing something else. You just couldn't. You didn't have a laptop. We had to stay in the office.
Yeah, when you left
Right.
work, you left work. Yeah, it was crazy.
Yeah. But like
I
that,
remember.
that was in our lifetime. And now we get to do work remote, on the weekend, or after 6 o'clock, or after whatever. And that's kind of a nice luxury to have. And so, again, that's all blended. But when you love what you do, there isn't such a separation between, oh, I have to balance this and that. It just becomes balance your life, balance the things that you need to accomplish, and figure out what you need to do at the end of the day to bring harmony back to your operating system. And in that, I think you will succeed, and it's all going to be okay. But there's a lot of times where you just have to work. Like, we just had a run, gosh, last week, was it, of, games every night, big games every night, and a lot happening. And we have a renewal deadline, and we have new sales, and we've got all of these things, and Sabrina Carpenter getting announced, and on top of each other. But so what do? You can't generate that kind of relevancy, that kind of momentum, that kind of energy. You've just got to write it, and then you've
Right.
got to figure out a way to optimize it.
Yeah.
And then you can take a break, but not when you're firing, not when everything is actually going your direction.
Right.
Because when it's not, it's really hard to create that. It's
Right.
impossible. You can't create the same energy of a Luca announcement on your own. I don't care how good your marketing department, like,
Right.
you can't. So
Very
No
you
true.
no
gotta
breaks during Luca announcement.
know. That's
Yeah.
what I don't care what's happening. You gotta ramp up. We've got
Yeah.
to really double down on all of those opportunities, and then find the time and space to do whatever you got to do to recover.
Michelle, I truly appreciate you opening up and sharing something that's vulnerable for a lot of people to talk about, and I love that you're so open and sharing about that.
Oh, well, that's life. I think we were chatting earlier before I think you started recording just about the relatability of being in this industry and not really having all of the answers and not being perfect. And it's not
Mhm.
always easy, but it's not negative and it's not bad. It's in the way that you understand why that is for you and how are you going to produce and thrive in spite of it. And then how can you take what you're comfortable sharing and be a beacon for other people that could be struggling with some of the same things, I think is kind of a gift and kind of a responsibility to uplift others in the industry that are human. Like we're
Yeah.
all just human and we're just trying to figure it out. And, I just turned
We're doing our
53. I don't know
best.
what it's like to be 53. So,
Right. I know. I love that quote. Or I saw it. Someone had it on a t-shirt and it said, "How am I supposed to act my age? I've never been this age before."
I love that.
Michelle, I am 53 as well, so we can compare notes. You're always learning something new about your body that you didn't know. You thought you had it figured out.
Oh, no, we don't. We laughed so hard because I celebrated my birthday this weekend and my girlfriends and I are like, man, we still got it. We can still party like we're in our 20s. I'm like, that may be true, but we are certainly recovering like we are in our 50s.
Right.
So our bodies are going to bring us back to the
Yes.
reality of our actual age, whether we like it or not.
It's
So you
so
just got to
true.
embrace it.
Hey, before we wrap things up, I want to hit you with our fast five. It's just five quick questions, looking for your short, immediate response. First up, what was your very first concert or sporting event?
Madonna and the Beastie Boys, and the Beastie Boys got booed off stage.
Oh
Beautiful.
man.
Yeah, can you imagine?
Do you have a favorite concert?
One of my favorite concerts was the last row at the LA Sports Arena to see what was a microscopic version of Michael Jackson.
Yes.
Incredible. He filled the room. He was my favorite performer. He was he was everything to me growing up, and the fact that I got to see him live will forever be my favorite concert memory.
And I got to see him on the Bad tour, and that was the one time I got to see him, and it was again, I was just so grateful. Some of those shows, it's like you sometimes you do like, oh, I'll have plenty of chances. Sometimes you won't, you know.
No, that you just got to take every opportunity that you can possibly get to do what you got to love.
You get a speaking of what you love, I know you love to travel. What's your favorite vacation getaway?
Favorite vacation getaway? Hawaii. Hawaii,
You have a place on your bucket list you haven't been yet?
Madagascar.
Oh, nice.
Ooh.
All right, last question for you. What's your theme song? TV cameras follow you all around filming your life. And what's the song that plays over the opening credits to the Kaj show?
Oh, Eye of the Tiger.
Love it.
Yeah, no delay there. I like it.
I love it.
My God, Rocky 3 is one of my all-time favorites. I probably know every line of that movie. And yeah, that's the theme song. I try to sing it at karaoke, including the roar. It's not pretty. Doesn't sound good, doesn't look good, but it lives in my soul.
Absolutely love that. Hey, this is an opportunity for you to plug. There's a young woman listening now who wants to reach out to you, or somebody who wants to learn more about premium sales. Plug anything you want to plug here.
Gosh, anybody can reach out to me on LinkedIn. I do my best to respond to everyone seeking any kind of wisdom that I could drop. It's not a lot, but I'll certainly engage in any conversation. And I think for me, when I came up, there wasn't all of this technology, there wasn't all this connectivity, there wasn't the same level of opportunity to connect to other industry professionals. It was all pretty new. So I do my very best to be a resource to as many people as I possibly can. So you can find me on LinkedIn and reach out through email, through whatever, mkajiwara at cryptoarena.com. Very reachable, very approachable. And at some point, I will schedule a call or respond to an email. That easy.
I love it. Hey, thank you so much for making the time today. I really, really appreciate you sharing your adventures.
Oh, my pleasure. It was so great to hang out with you guys in Venueland.
In
Yes.
Venueland.
A big thanks to everybody for listening to this episode of Adventures in Venueland. Remember, you can subscribe and find more episodes wherever you listen to your favorite podcasts. We do love your 5-star reviews. It helps others find us. Until the next adventure, I'm Dave Rettelberger.
And I'm Paul Hooper. Thanks for listening, everyone. We'll catch you on the next one.
Adventures in Venueland is a side project of the Event and Venue Marketing Conference, a marketing conference that brings together diversified event and venue professionals to cultivate education, collaboration, and innovation for the growing sports and live entertainment industry. Find out more at eventvenuemarketing.com.
Audio editing and mixing by Camille Faulkner.
Design and digital advertising by Megan Ebeck.
Copywriting and publicity by Samantha Marker.
Guest booking and brand strategies by Paul Hooper.
Guest research by Dave Rettelberger.
Marketing strategies by Paul Hooper, Megan Ebeck, and Samantha Marker. Thanks for joining us. Until the next adventure.